So Ghost of M says he just perceives Schindler's 3-betting 40%. 40% is insane. And again, maybe he is doing that against weak players, but we're not doing that against weak players. We're doing it against very, very good players. All right, next hand. Marchese raises ace-2 offsuit on the button. Negreanu calls big blind with 10-9 offsuit, which I think is fine. Flop comes queen 6-2. Like right here, like say you know you're looking at the last card on the flop for your suit selection, and your opponents know it's just like one of these. They don't know if it's the heart, spade, club, or diamond first off, but also they don't know which card you're even looking at. If you're only looking at the cocktail waitresses, there's only like one of those, right? So if there's only one, and the cocktail waitress is, let's say, abnormally good looking today, and you've been just really aggressive today because the waitress is very good looking, then they're going to figure that out very quickly. They're not going to be able to figure out, oh, the middle card on the board was a club every time. They're not going to be able to see that. Plus, it changes, right? So make sure your random number generator is associated with something that changes, like your watch hand, the second hand on your watch, or the cards in your hand, something like that. All right. Now comes queen 6-2. Marchese continuation bets tiny, right? Remember, we've been discussing this. Tiny C bets are very, very good. Negreanu decides to call the 10-9. So we discussed, how often do you need to call in these scenarios? Well, let's get out our calculator. 15 divided by 67 equals 22% minus 1 equals about 77% of the time. Okay, let's go over to the range analyzer. What does Negreanu's calling range look like pre-flop? What just happened? He raised the button, Negreanu calls. So he's probably not going to have the best hands. So we're just going to give him who knows what in the world's going on calling range. So maybe it's going to be something like these. I also don't know what his bluffing range looks like either, because who knows what is going on. He did make it a full 2.5x, so you can't actually defend too wide. Let's assume his range looks something like this. Okay. Select all these hands in red. And we needed to defend, how often did we decide? 78%, right? Yeah, so we need to have 78%. So right here, notice we have 100% on this number right here, right? Well, we need to add some hands in blue that we're going to fold, but they cannot go over 22%. So board is queen of spades, 6 of clubs, 2 of hearts. So let's put that here. Queen of spades, 6 of clubs, 2 of hearts. Okay, no flush draws available. So let's just let's go and find the hands we're obviously going to call, right? So all the queens we're going to stick around with, clearly. All the 6s we're going to stick around with, clearly. All of the 2s we're going to stick around with, clearly. Now, if you only continue with pairs, you see we're folding 75% of the time. Way too often, right? Okay, next. Let's call there all of our ace highs. So all of our ace highs we're going to stick around with. Okay? Now, we're still folding way too often. Way, way, way too often, right? Next, let's continue with all of our kings. Still, we're folding way too often. Remember, this number has to be 22% or less. All right, so now we'll look what we're looking at we have to call with, right? We have any pair here. Let's give us any pair, obviously. Forgot about those. So we still need to come up with about 10% more hands, right? What I suggest you do now is first select the spades, clubs, and hearts of these other hands. So what we can do over down here, I have a little button I'm clicking, spades, hearts, and clubs. I'll show you where it is. It's right down here on the range analyzer. We're going to select all these that have spades, hearts, or clubs. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is 17 hands. We have to put 17 hands back in our junky value range. This is beyond the scope of this video, but I show you how to use the range analyzer in one of the links on this page. We have to put an adjustment here. And this is going to look about right. So this has us calling with 23%. We are going to under-realize our equity, right? We're going to under-realize our equity because we are the player out of position, so we can fold a hair tighter. And this is roughly what you should probably defend with. You may also want to call with these three hands because they have additional straight draws. Right? And that's going to get you to where you're folding even a little bit less. So this is probably over defending. So there we are. This is what we're looking at. We're folding out these hands and continuing with these. So Negreanu, what does he have? He has 10-9. Just so happens, this is one of the ones I don't think you should defend with. So yeah, I think this is just going to be a fold. I guess you could call the 10-9s if you're going to not call the 9-8, 9-7, and 8-7. Notice if these go back to being red. This goes up to 17. So this is still okay. You could justify just folding all these offsuit ones. I mean, maybe it's fine. You should probably call Jack 10 before. You should call Jack 10 before 8-7. I probably spoke wrong there. Jack 10 just has to be better. Then Jack 9, and then 10-9, I guess. As you see, though, like this 10-9 is damn near the bottom of your range, right? And for that reason, I think it's probably just going to be a fold. But it's close. All right, turn is not written. Thank you, transcriber. Goes check, check, whatever. River goes check, check, whatever. We can't solve this now because we don't know what we have. But Marchese, notice he has ace high and checks back the, I'm sorry, has bottom pair, checks back the turn, checks back the river, and presumably wins the pot. This is not a good bluff card for Negreanu. Let's say the turn is not a 10 or a 9, so he's not checking for value. This is not a good card to bluff on the river. But this is one of these spots where maybe some of the better players are just going for it because they know they have the bottom of their range, right? So kind of interesting. You all are going nuts in the chat. Let's see what you're saying. You say all the crushers are really aggressive at the final table. Do you think these guys are just always going crazy when they have a blocker to the absolute nuts? They're not always going crazy, but they definitely are overly aggressive. Let's see. Doesn't minimum defense frequency only matter on the river and not on the flop? Depends on who you're playing against. First thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter at all, right? If you're playing against someone who only bets with the nuts, then it doesn't matter. But no, it does apply on all streets. However, if you have to realize how much of your equity, or you have to think about how much of your equity are you going to realize, especially with the bottom of your range. Like right here with 10-9, I don't think you're realizing too much equity. So that should lead you to fold that hand more often than not. But yes, if you like, imagine in this spot you only call with your pairs or better. Your opponent's just printing money by continuation betting with any two cards. In my first book, I wrote, you should probably be continuation betting way less than I'm about to describe. But for the most part, you should continuation bet about 100% of the time. And that's because people folded way too much back then. Now people are realizing this and they don't fold so much. But back then it didn't matter because your opponents were so bad that in spots like this, they were only defending ace high or better. And that's just allowing you to continuation bet blind. You say it looks like Marchese loses the pot on the next hand. It does look like that. I bet Negreanu got a 10 or a 9 on the turn, which makes sense why he wouldn't bluff the river. Okay, good call. If someone wants to send me hands from the nightly Aria tournament, if somehow you can transcribe a whole hand history from the final table, I'm happy to go through it if you would like me to. All right, so anyway, next hand. Good call on Marchese losing the pot. All right, Carry Cats, middle position limps, ace-2 of hearts. All right, so I commentated Carry Cats winning the $100,000 buy-in tournament at the PCA. I think it was a few months after this tournament. And he was doing a lot of limping as well. And if I had to tell Kerry one thing, it would be to cut this limping out. I said it about 10 times at the final table there. Limping is fine from the button and the cutoff, but limping from earlier positions really does just let you get crushed by people in position. You don't mind seeing a flop when you're going to have all the advantages on your hand. You want to have a reasonable hand to start with. You want to have position. And ideally, you want to be against people who are not just going to blindly raise you and put you in bad spots. Here we have Tom Marchese in the cutoff, a good loose aggressive player. And we also have Tilston, who is the chip leader. I don't know if he's aggressive or not, but he is the chip leader. Presumably, he should be aggressive. So against both those players, you'd rather not have a limping strategy. And you're going to find most of the time at the final table, you just don't want to have a limping strategy from early position. This is a good hand to limp with. This is a hand you don't want to raise and get jammed off of. So, I mean, I'm fine with the hand selection, like if we had to develop a limping range, but it's just not a good strategy. One of the easiest ways to get crushed is just take all of your marginal stuff and put it in your limping strategy. All right. Marchese calls queen jack offsuit, which I think is fine. Tilston calls queen 8 offsuit on the button. I don't really like the queen 8 offsuit call. This is not a good hand at all. I think even as the chip leader, I don't think you need to play this queen 8 offsuit. I get that it's cheap. I get that he has stack size on his hands. But yeah, I don't like this at all. Rast checks big blind. Flop comes ace, 7, 5. Check, check. Marchese elects to bet when they check to him. So this is another thing that I have started doing more. When multiple people check to you multi-way, I think it's always good to take a stab, or at least very frequently good to take a stab, because I think people play too straightforwardly. That said, it's not bad to play straightforwardly 4 ways just because someone's going to have something a lot of the time. I would not have bet this queen jack offsuit here because you don't really have much backdoor equity at all. If the board was something like all low cards, or even something that gave Marchese a gut shot, or backdoor gut shot, then sure. I get, okay, backdoor gut shot. I guess he has backdoor to a straight here, but if he had like an overcard or something, if he had anything here, right? This is a spot where I would be inclined to bet. But here he just has stone garbage, so I'm probably not betting. Notice here, though, typically players in limp pots will be leading with their best hands in the blinds, so you can kind of discount the big blind, Rast, from having anything. Maybe not. Maybe you can't discount that. So I don't know. It's a pretty aggressive bet. He is betting in this spot, and if he picks it up a third of the time, it's going to be profitable. So that's really the question. Do I pick up this pot a third of the time? It's not so hard to pick it up a third of the time. All right, anyway, Cass calls with his top pair. Turns at 10. Marchese gets there. He has the gut shot now. He bets again, and Cass folds. My transcriber felt the need to write this in all capitals. That's funny. Yeah, nitty fold, and this is why you don't want to limp. I think Kerry just let this pot get away from him, and Marchese knows that Katz is a little bit on the tighter side, so he's just in blast-off mode. He got one of the cards he can very easily blast on the turn. He probably thinks Katz has at best a bad ace, and if his range is capped at a bad ace, and it seems like a great spot to keep blasting. So, yeah, I don't really like this hand from Katz. If you are going to take this line of check calling with this hand, I think you pretty much have to check call it down. One thing a lot of people do wrong is that they bet their best hands, like, I don't know, ace 10 or better on the flop, and then they check their weaker hands, like ace 9 and worse, right? Then on the turn, they maybe call those hands or maybe fold them. And then on the river, if they face another bet, they just fold them all every time. So by the river, they only get to see the showdown when they happen to make 2 pair or better, which just doesn't happen very often. And whenever they do make 2 pair or better, it's often kind of obvious to the opponent because, like, say the turn's an ace, you probably don't want to keep betting, right? When you're bluffing. So I hate this line from Katz. All right, let's see. What do we think a good continuation betting percentage is now? I do not like your question. I would instead ask, what is a good continuation bet percentage as the preflop raiser with a range advantage in position? What's a good continuation bet as the pre-flop caller for in position when your opponent checks to you? It's not really a continuation bet, right? What about when you're the raiser and the range is bad for you and you are out of position, right? Like all these spots are different. Just saying 65% is not a good strategy, because what a lot of people will do is they'll just look at their range and just bet 65% of the hands every time. We discussed this thoroughly, more than you could possibly imagine over at pokercoaching.com. Go there, sign up for free, look through all the past homework questions, and continuation betting percentage will be explained in depth. All right, let's see. Couldn't we transcribe this into a replayer? In theory, we probably could, but you have to realize, first off, I made these for myself. I did not make these for you. I was just going through these and someone said, well, if you're going to go through them anyway, why not stream it? Well, I knew I was going to get through them way slower, but hey, it is what it is. But also, I want to get these things done quickly, and I don't know. I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing it for you. Sorry. This format is fine for me. I have no problem with this format. I understand it's new to a lot of people. A lot of people do not write down their hands. They're not used to this format that's great for live poker. But if you do it for just like a day, you'll figure it out. It's like looking at hand histories, right? Some people look at hand histories and they have no clue what's going on. Other people, you look at a hand history, they know exactly what's going on because they've looked at a million hand histories, right? I've looked at a million hands transcribed like this, so this is just not even a problem for me. Also, the problem with the replayer is if you have a replayer, you end up like covering your screen and all sorts of stuff, and then it becomes hard to follow. Here we have a nice blank working canvas where we can actually put stuff. But yeah, in theory, I could pay twice as much and have all the hands transcribed. If someone here wants to do it, feel free. I'm happy to do that. Let you do that. I think a lot of people are all about the aesthetics. I'm not all about the aesthetics, don't get me wrong. And also, don't get me wrong, aesthetics are not a bad thing. I have beautiful artwork here and over here, and I have things that look pretty around. So aesthetics are good, but when learning, I do not want aesthetics. I want bare bones data. If someone could have put this into Hold'em Manager for me and just sent me a Hold'em Manager packet with all the hands, I would have been thrilled, because that breaks the data down even further, right? We don't have that capability yet. But when we do, that's what I'll be paying for. I'm not going to be paying for someone to put it in a replayer to make it look pretty for the other people. So anyway, LPM says they're winning all the money. Well, that's good. 65 per hour is, you're maybe running a little bit hot on that one. But good. All right. Let's see. Where were we? Cats raises now. Oh boy, Cats. Cats raises 3-2 suited on the button. So this is a hand you should just fold carry. Carry may be prone to tilt. Let's just go ahead and throw that out. Smith 3-bets with ace-5 offsuit in the big blind, which is kind of interesting. I think I would have been inclined to just call Cats. I would have worried that he's going to be still overly tight, but maybe Smith knows that Cats is inclined to get after it whenever things go poorly on him, or goes poorly for him. So yeah, sure, 3-bet it. Stick it to him. If you think your opponent's going to fold too often in 3-bets, 3-bet a lot. I think a lot of people don't quite realize that if you know your opponent has any sort of giant flaw in their game, then take advantage of that giant flaw. The colors make people learn better. Here we have colors. This is clubs. These are green. These spades, these are black. The hearts are red. The diamonds are blue. Look at all the beautiful colors we have on the screen here. We have a red line right up there. We have white text with lots of colors of names right down here. We have all the colors you could possibly want. All right. Cats raises, king, queen in the cutoff. Marchese 3-bets him again. Not again. Smith 3-bet him. And Cats folds again. Cats are just playing way too tight. It's funny because I started playing with cats. I don't know if it was like right when he started playing, but I started playing with cats about 10 or 15 years ago at Bellagio. And he played every hand. Now he's a nit. So I don't even know what's going on. I think you just need to be all in with this king queen. I would not like being all in with the king queen, but I think it's fine. One thing I may have done, listen, I don't have a problem with this sizing. I think this sizing is very normal, very good, standard, A+, etc. But against carry, if you think he's going to fold ever, you'd much rather 3-bet smaller. This is one of these spots where I think you do need to try to be exploitable. So I would have gone a little bit smaller. Finch says, you would fold to Dan Smith 3-bets. Dude is a wizard. Okay. Let's think about what you just said here. If this, and this is actually what happens to a lot of people. They get in their minds, oh man, I'm not messing with Dan Smith because Dan Smith wins all the money. Dan Smith wins all the money because people play poorly against him. That's why Phil Hellmuth wins all the money. People play poorly against him. People make drastic mistakes because of fear. Their fear leads to them folding too much, right? And if they're folding too much, then that's how you beat them. You just raise and re-raise and whatnot. Let's see. Do we do any one-on-one coaching and hand reviews? You can email support@jonathanlittlepoker.com. And the answer is maybe if we find time. But yes. We also have the inner circle over at pokercoaching.com/inner circle. That may be better for you. It's definitely cheaper than private coaching, but you get to, we have office hours. Kind of like this, except for you get to call in and send in your hand histories, ask me questions, and I go through your hands. So check that out at pokercoaching.com/inner circle. All right. Here we have another hand. Cats limps. Oh, do you think he's folding this time? I bet he's not folding. Cats limps with ace queen in the cutoff. Schindler calls Jack 10 of hearts on the button. Notice he does not raise, probably fearing the carry cat's limp could be strong. Marchese calls Jack 9 of spades in the big blind. Tilston checks queen 5 of hearts. It comes ace 7-7. Check, 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 check. Turns a 5. Tilston now bets small. I don't mind this small bet. This is a pretty reasonable spot to lead small. You could Tilston could very easily have the 7, right? And if he does have a 5 and people fold, he's very often protecting his equity. I mean, notice here, Schindler and Marchese both have plenty of equity, and he's going to make them fold even for a 15K bet. And then, fortunately for him, Cass decides to raise and makes his life easy. So because now Tilston's just very convinced he is in bad shape, and he folds. I definitely think Cass should bet small on the flop. This is, again, one of these scenarios where when you are shallow, you should probably just bet the flop and be willing to get it in. I understand that the 7 is very easily in all of the opponent's ranges, but when you're playing 22 big blinds and you get top pair good kicker on a board with a flush draw, I think you're just fine betting and getting it in. Cats does this weird value raise on the turn. I think I would just call. And when I call here, if I was Cats, if I was trying to teach Cats here, I would say try to look as unhappy as you possibly could and as disgruntled as you can without being over the top. Obviously, don't want to look like you're Hollywooding. And that's going to often induce Tilston to bet again on the river to try to make you fold out pocket 6s or pocket 8s or something like that. So that's what I would have done there. Let's see. When Cats limps, is his idea to represent a limp range or not? Well, what does a limp range necessarily mean? Is his idea... Listen, I don't know what Cats is doing. We should get him on the phone and ask him. But I imagine he's probably just limping because he doesn't want to play for all of his money. He doesn't want to go broke. I think that's probably it. I mean, we've seen him limping with a wide range of hands, and they've all been reasonable hands to limp, but I think just raising with all of them is going to lead to better results because you're pushing value, you're pushing equity. When you limp, you make your opponents not make mistakes because now they can call for one big blind, like we just saw there, Jack 10 of hearts and Jack 9 of spades. That's a spot where if Cats raised, maybe those hands call or even 3-bet, and Cats would have won a pot that was twice the size. So he would have won more money, right? He just would have won more. Maybe he even gets 3-bet and then he gets to jam and then win the pot pre-flop, which would have been amazing. I do have Carrie's number, but I'm not going to give him a call. That doesn't seem right to have an impromptu coaching session with Carrie Katz on the stream. Maybe next time. All right. Katz limps with 6-4 of hearts in the low jack. Again, limping all sorts of stuff. Marchese now raises 28K with pocket jacks. We don't have his position. This is 2 hours and 8 minutes in. I'm going to go find it real quick because we need positions on this one. Katz is first. Okay. I have the video pulled up on the side, so I can look it up if necessary. He's on the button. The question is, where's the low jack? The seats go button, cutoff, hijack, low jack. That's how you look at the seats. Then, small blind, big blind. Then I guess you could have quote unquote under the gun. You should probably just make a name for that seat too. Low jack is under the gun 6-handed. So under the gun 6-handed, he limps 6-4 of hearts. Marchese raises with jacks on the button, which is fine. Katz calls. 8-8-4-5. Marchese bets 30K into 76, and Carrie Katz should go all in. Easy all in here. Even if he had just the gut shot and a backdoor flush draw, I think he should still be all in. This is a board where Marchese is going to bet almost every time. And if he's not calling off with stuff like ace-king, which I probably would not against Carrie Katz, he's going to be folding way too often. So I think in this spot, Katz just needs to be jamming. Also, the draws you want to be jamming are the draws that don't have very much showdown value. So does this draw have showdown value? Well, 6 high has about as little showdown value as you can get because it's 6 high. So I think you need to be jamming this hand for sure. He does call though. Turns a 9, check. Notice Marchese does not decide to value bet. He's probably just worried he's beat. River's a 2. Katz bets, easy call for Marchese. I think Katz should probably bet bigger on the river. Actually, no, I don't think he should bet bigger. In this spot on the river, I think Katz needs to bet small. And the reason I think he needs to bet small is because what are we trying to get Marchese to fold? We are trying to get Marchese to fold ace high. He's never folding an overpair. He's never folding any pair on the board. Probably not folding pocket threes if he has it, which he probably doesn't. We're trying to get him off of ace high and king high. So how much do we need to bet to get him off ace high and king high? I think a bet of like 40K would be quite nice. So yeah, I would go for a small bet here. Also, I don't think Katz should have very many bluffs. At least he wouldn't in my mind. So as he has very few bluffs, he generally wants to use a small size as well. So I would like something like a 40K bet on the river. Easy call for Marchese, obviously. Let's see. I mentioned that Katz is tight. So what I meant tight as in he's not playing for all of his money without a good hand. I did not mean tight preflop hand selection, although I do think he is somewhat tighter. I mean, like these hands he's playing, 3-2 suited, a lot of people think that's good. 6-4 suited, a lot of people think that's good. These are not like insane hands like 9-4 offsuit or anything. In the past, like look, I was jaded by his past play 15 years ago where he was playing 9-4 offsuit every time. But even here, in all these hands, notice he's not playing for all the money, even with a nut draw here like this. Mimlik says, if Katz is bluffing the river with 6-4 of hearts, he has way too many bluffs, though. Why do you think he has too many bluffs? When looking at your bluffing range, you very often want to start at the bottom and work your way up. So what is the worst hand in Katz's range? I don't know what it is, but it may be 3-2 of hearts, or 4-3 of hearts, or 6-4 of hearts. Well, we're already there, 6-4 of hearts, right? We already found it. This is the bottom of his range right off the bat. So I don't know why we would think that this is not a good hand to bluff with. Also, notice it does not block ace high or king high. Ace high, you really don't want to have an ace or a king in this spot because we're trying to get those hands to fold. If we have a lot of aces if we have an ace in our hand, now it's more likely our opponent has a pair, which makes it less likely to succeed. We want our opponent to have all of the ace high and king high and queen high combinations. So we really don't want to have an ace, a king, or a queen in our hand. So what other flush draws do we have? I mean, we have like 10-9. Let's just get out of the range analyzer and count them. Let's just clear this. We have suited hands, hearts. Let's go to post-flop aggressor. What do our bluffs look like on a board of 8, 8, 5, 9, 2? 8 of hearts, 8 of clubs, 5 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, 2 of spades. Okay. All right. Where are our bluffs that are not jack high or better? Well, we have 10-9, can't have it. 10-8, can't have it. 10-7, okay, we found one. 10-6, you really think he's limping 10-6? Probably not. 9-7, all these are pairs. Now we have to go to 7 high, that's a straight. 7-5 is a pair, 6-5 is a pair, 6-4, 6-3, 5-4 is a pair, 5-3 is a pair, and 4-3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 combinations of hands that are logical bluffs. Notice here, well, listen, he's not playing 10-6 or 6-3. I'm just going to probably forget about those. Next, we have 6-5 or 7-6, but that's a straight now. That missed. So you notice here, we just have like no bluffs. We have literal no bluffs available. If we go higher, we have to go to Jack 10. Remember I just said you don't have a Jack or a 10 in your hand. Queen 9 makes a pair. Queen 10, Queen Jack. Like maybe you're supposed to start bluffing these. I mean, sure. Notice here, that's one. These are all of our bluffs. So, tell you what, let's make bluffs. Let's make these this color. All right, what are our value hands in this spot? Well, let's give him 7-6 all suits. We're not even going to give him the offsuit hands because we're going to do our best to make it look good for him. We have some 8s. Maybe he has a 9 he wants to value bet. Right? All these hands may be easy value bets that he's limping. What else do we have? We have pocket 2s. We have pocket 5s. Pocket 8s, maybe. Pocket 9s, maybe. So this looks pretty reasonable, right? So, in this scenario, I don't know if you can see this, his range is 80% value hands, 20% bluffs. Okay? We all agree on this? Does this look about reasonable? Presumably he's not betting all these weaker hands. 80% value, 20% bluffs. Okay, so that means that he, when he bets the river, wants to give his opponent, whoever his opponent is, something to the effect of 4-1 pot odds. He wants it to be where his opponent needs to win 20% of the time. Okay? Pot is 136. Let's say we bluff 40K into it, plus the opponent's 40K call. Oops. That's going to make it 40 to win 216. So 40 divided by 216 equals, I did something wrong. 40 divided by 216 equals, notice this is about 18% of the time. Okay, so that means that if he bets this, he's going to have a hair too many bluffs for a 40K size, assuming we're trying to be balanced. Let's say he picks 36 instead, times 2 equals plus 136 equals 36 divided by 208 equals too few bluffs. I did this wrong. Too few bluffs. So he needs to bet more like 44. 44 times 2 equals plus 136 equals. Okay, so 44 divided by 224. This is going to be very close to right? We want this number to be 20%. Here it is. So he should bet 44K on the river, assuming that is the range he ends up with in this scenario. Now, I don't know if this is the range he ends up with in this scenario, but if that is his range, and he's betting with this fairly polarized range, notice all these hands we have selected are top pair or better. He should bet 44K, assuming he's trying to be balanced. Hopefully this is a little primer on how this works. Even then, though, like I don't know if he needs to be bluffing these the good king highs, right? As we take out these bluffs, that's going to make him more value heavy, and then that's going to make his bet size become smaller. Remember how I initially said he should use a very small bet? That was because I was assuming he's not bluffing with these king high hands because I don't think it's necessary a lot of the time. If he is tight, would he not be balanced? It's a rough question because you can be unbalanced in one spot, but then balanced in a lot of other spots. For example, a lot of people call way too often on the river, but they're fairly balanced up until that point. You know? You're saying if he's tight, would he be more weighted towards value? Like, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know. We see he played the 6-4 of hearts this way, right? Just a stone bluff. So given he played a stone bluff this way, then clearly he's bluffing sometimes, right? Maybe he doesn't even have 10-6 though. I mean, let's just be realistic here. Is he really limping 6-3 suited? Is he really doing that? Is he really bluffing these king highs I don't think we need? Probably not. As you see now, we're already getting this area where he just has fewer and fewer and fewer bluffs available to where when he has so few bluffs, he can bet very small. He should be doing that. Alternatively, he could take some of these bad bluffs like 10-7, 6-4, and 4-3, 3 combinations of hands, and then go all in. Make a big bet. I don't know how many chips we're looking at here. It's going to be once 160 minus this. 140. 140. So he can have 9 nut hands. He wants to give his opponent 2-to-1 pot odds, right? 9 nut hands. No, I'm sorry. 6 nuts and 3 bluffs. So say we wanted to have 6 nuts and 3 bluffs. These 3 bluffs, 10-7, 6-4, and 4-3. We can split our range, right? Now, these are going to be big bluffs. These are going to be big bluffs. 1, 2, 3. These are going to be big bet for value. These are going to be small value. Okay. We could also do something like this, where we bet big with the hands in blue. Let's look at the ones we want to bet small with first. That's going to make life easier. We want to bet small with these. We want to bet small with this and this. Guess we want to bet small with these too. Small with this, small with this, small with this. And sure, small with this. So this looks pretty nice, right? This is how you'd break your range down if you wanted to have 2 sizings. First one was if you want to have 1 sizing. This is how you if you want to have 2 sizings. So look what we're doing. Big value bet. Now, we can go all in, pot it. We will be still a hair value heavy with full houses, not counting pocket 2s, and 10-7, 6-4, and 4-3 of hearts. Okay? Next, in this spot, we can bet tiny on the river with the hands in green. Oops, what just happened? Tiny with the hands in green and tiny with the hands in gray. And that will also be very balanced. Maybe if you wanted to make this even closer to GTO, you could move 5s. No, this one's going to be better here. There we go. That's going to be better. Now we have a 2-to-1 ratio. Remember how we wanted to have 6 here and 3 here? We couldn't quite do it. Here we have 6 and 7 and 3. This is perfect for an all-in size. And for the small size, again, we have a pretty solid number. We can bet like a 10th pot, almost nothing. Issue here, though, is that there are a lot of nut hands here. A lot of these hands actually are nuts. So what Carey should do, I think, is he should probably use all the 8s as an all-in size and find way more bluffs. This kind of implies he's like check calling flop with jack highs and stuff like that. Anyway, given this range, if this was a homework question on pokercoaching.com, presenting exactly this scenario, I'm kind of ignoring all the pre-flop, post-flop spots, whatever. This would be the answer. I would have presented the first answer of, bet small with everything. And then I would have presented this answer of all in with the hands in red and the hands in blue, and bet tiny with the hands in green and the hands in gray. All right, what are all you saying in the chat? U.S.Poker needs to know what's going on. You do not want to have an ace in your hand when you are bluffing. That is definitely true. Willow says 4-1 is value heavy versus GTO. GTO is 2-1. You are making broad generalizations. When you are betting, GTO means giving your opponent an indifferent scenario to where they don't care if they call or fold. By doing that, you win the pot. What you want to do is you want to have your range look like bluffs and value bets in proportion to the bet size they are facing. Now over here, for this big bet size, when we're potting it, we're going all in, right? Our opponent needs to win a third of the time. Well, look, he is going to win about a third of the time, right? 7-3, he's going to win about a third of the time. This is GTO. That's the 2-1 you're looking at. Over here, we're at 9-1. That's nowhere near 2-1 GTO because that's wrong. That's not what we're doing. We're using a different bet size. Your opponent becomes indifferent as you make different bet sizes, right? That changes the odds they are getting. So when you bet tiny in this spot, you're way balanced toward value hands, but that's fine because your bluffs get to bluff so incredibly cheaply. These bluffs, they just win the pot, which is great, right? They win the pot because of the presence of all these other nut hands in your range. Anyway, we probably droned on about this way too long. Probably lost 100 viewers. All right.